Willkommen, meine Damen und Herren. Welcome to a special for secular year. Rabbi Hani Nigunim, yours truly universal. Rabbi Hani, advocate, defender, and supporter of Jewish civilization since 1984. I have a cup of coffee. There's a cup of coffee, tea, plain water. I'm going to have a session of meditation, study meditation, humor, and of course, niggunim. L'chaim to life. Now, just to introduce today, just said a blessing, bracha. What's the deal with in Judaism with having blessings over food, items that we ingest, that we eat for our appetite? Of course, question is, and of course, there's a question on the question is, well, okay, we have a blessing, but does that blessing apply at all times that we're about to eat or drink? Or we can say a blessing, let's say, over liquid, water, tea, or coffee in the morning, and that applies until the sunset. What about then? Now, more questions. And of course, some Jews answer questions with questions. All right, well, how many hours into the sunset after does the blessing apply? How long will the blessing last? Instead of blessing now, it's 8:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, in Yerushalayim, it's 3 in the morning. Different story. Somebody, perhaps it's a Saturday night, Sunday, disco in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, disco bars closes up. Maybe you're at a strip club, Israeli Jew going in the strip club. Let's see what time it is exactly in Yerushalayim. So time in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem is peace to the world security, peace and prosperity for Yerushalayim from Jerusalem. And it is, of course, exact time in Jerusalem now is 3:44 a.m. After a Saturday night. It's still Saturday night here in Montreal. People, maybe Israel, finishing the club, finishing the party, finishing the strip club. The question would be in today's world, halachic question would be, you say a blessing first time you eat during the day, something you drink, coffee, milk, even water. There's even a blessing on water, wine. That's of course applicable. One further question is, if the blessing applies throughout the whole day, then does it apply also at night? Let's say I said a blessing, or do we have to say it each and every time? Or if you ask these questions, they say that you're on the right path. Rabbi Hani Nigunim, Rabbi Hani, myself will tell you that. Still have a few more questions. So if you know somebody with an authoritative halacha, law, Jewish law, please point me out also in that direction, so I can also learn and acquire more chachma, bina das, more wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Now, this is the cup. Said a blessing before, started drinking it. Question is, are we required to say a blessing every time we drink from it? Then if no, then what if I pour another cup? Well, it depends. Was it from the same kettle? What if I pour new water? How much water for new blessings? Piece of bread, whole bread? If I only eat a slice from it, but I cut a piece, I said a blessing. Does that blessing include a whole bread? Good question. Again, if you know somebody with an authoritative halacha, with a law, please let me know. Please let me know so I can acquire more wisdom, chachma, understanding, and knowledge. Myself, of course, a universal rabbi. I'm always looking to cooperate, learn more, and grow in all things and increasing acts of goodness with kindness. Special subject today, the name Israel. And this is it's a very important topic, politically, socially, spiritually, economically, financially, and of course from a Jewish Kabbalistic Jewish mystic point of view or perspective or understanding, wisdom, knowledge. The name Israel today. Of course, we have the state of Israel, Israel, Eretz Israel. It's not totally understood. There's not definite wisdom or knowledge as to this name. To, of course, Jews across the world and Jewishes across the world, and non-binary Jews and Jewesses across the world. Of course, LGBTQ Jews across the world. And suffice it to say that it is a mystery to it, to the name Israel. It is, of course, on the lips daily in the news, this name, for political reasons, spiritual reasons, of course, financial reasons. Where does this name come from? Where is it first mentioned? Well, of course, Jews, and for that matter, much of Western civilization, whether admittingly or not. Christians, of course, although do not want to go into debates or argue Christianity and Judaism and the relationship, the parental, fatherly, more motherly relationship between Judaism and Christianity, because it's not the topic for today, nor do I feel or want to have a desire to engage in that at the moment, since it will require much more coffee than at the present moment I'm willing to ingest. Israel. So where does it come from? It comes, of course, from the Bible, the Torah. Like I said, Christianity, of course, Christians have kept, although they use the word, of course, for the Torah, for the Bible, the Old Testament. People use that word, Old Testament, or the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch. What Jews know as the Torah. Again, another mystery. Torah, what does it really mean? Instruction, teaching. Is this Torah? Is it one word? Is it 2 words? Torah. What's the deal with the? I'm not gonna debate it. Israel comes, of course, in the first time that the name Israel appears is in the book of Genesis. To be specific, Genesis chapter 32. Jacob. Story of Jacob. Israel, the first time appears when an entity, and some say an archangel, some say God himself, blessed Jacob with a new name. And not a new name, but an additional name to the name Yaakov, Jacob. And this is a very profound defining moment in Jewish civilization, or if you want Jewish history, because of course in the Bible we have the 12 tribes of Jacob, also known as Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. So we have to go to the book of Genesis. We have to go to the book of Genesis. We have to read the story of Jacob in order to understand the name and the mysteries within the name. Before I proceed, I want to say that there's a mystery, deep mystery to the name. And there's different opinions. Rabbinic opinions, Jewish mystical opinions, Kabbalistic, Hasidic, Orthodox, Conservative, Liberal, Rainbow. That it is not 100% clear if the name means Prince of God or struggle with God. Of course, one would say that these are very, very contrasting, almost seeming that there's an opposition, that there's a contradiction. Well, if one opinion states that Israel means, comes from the root word of Sar, prince, and the root at the end, El, of course, for God, Prince of God. One says, nah, comes from struggling, the root of the word struggling, to struggle, to wrestle, to combat, fight, God. Well, seems to be a dimension that's very opposite, something very contradictory, when in fact a contradiction has to be wisely understood with knowledge. And we have to go to the story of Jacob to Yaakov, the patriarch Jacob. Book of Genesis. Just the story of Jacob, of course, and his twin brother Esau. The parents Yitzhak and Rivka, Isaac and Rebecca in the English transliteration. And we have to go into chapters and to understand, to read them all and meditate upon the chapters, and we have to read the commentaries and commentaries on the commentaries, and then get an idea, a glimmer, a spark of the mystery of the holiness of the name, which is every day almost in the news, on the lips of so many people across the world. Israel. Who is Israel? Again, if you have more sources, more knowledge, wisdom, understanding on these matters, always willing to learn, cooperate. The book of Genesis describes an event in the life of Jacob. And this event has to do with his encounter, or about to encounter, his brother Esau. And generally the English transliteration, it discusses like this in chapter 32. That Jacob was left, the sun had set, there was night, and Jacob was left alone. Of course, he had been father of the 12 tribes at that moment, but and then you would have to ask, what does it specify? What's the importance of have the Torah specifying this fact. And so, we're gonna get the Torah. Torah, prophets, writings, the Tanakh. Genesis chapter 32. So the transliteration says like this. Genesis 32 verse 23. Jacob was left, but he got up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 handmaids, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of Yabok. And when he took them and had them cross over the stream, he sent over his possessions. Jacob, was left alone, and a man here actually uses, see the translation, a man, a ish, the Hebrew Aleph Yud Shin, ish, wrestled with him until the break of dawn. What did the Torah specify until the break of dawn here? Obviously, if it was night, it doesn't specify. It says they wrestled for 3 rounds of 3 minutes each boxing. What's around the boxing is 10 rounds matches and 12-round matches, right? And a few minutes, 3 minutes each round. They go at it. Maybe they go 12 rounds like the last match. What was the last match? Tyson Fury, Mr. Fury versus Mr. Wilder, Dante Wilder. So they went at it 12 rounds, 3 minutes each. That's 36 minutes. You could have said a man wrestled with Yaakov. You could have said Jacob was left alone and a man wrestled with him, wrestled or struggled. The word Hebrew is kind of fighting, wrestling, fighting, struggling, pushing. It's fighting, basically, struggling. You could have said for 37 minutes. It says here until the break of dawn. What's happening here? Break of dawn? Who did he wrestle with? Vampire was about to grow teeth, bite. Sun's coming. He has to go to this lair, like the vampires. They only operate at night. What's going on? You can't survive the sunlight. It's coming. Gonna burn. Hollywood movies. What is it? Blade. Whatever. All the ones. Of course, Dracula. Another ones. What was it? Was it the ancestor of Vlad the Impaler here? Dracula. Perhaps Dracula himself wrestling with patriarch, Father Yaakov here. On break of dawn he has to go. Wrestle with him until the break of dawn. When he perceived that he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. The Yaakov's hip socket was dislocated as he wrestled with him. The Yaakov, our patriarch, gets injured. Gets an injury. Gets hurt. He got injured. Then he said, Let me go, for dawn has broken. Again, what's the deal with dawn here? Why let me go, for dawn has broken? Why specify? I could have said just let me go. Why? Because dawn. Let me go, for dawn has broken. So dawn, and dawn, we kind of start to see the beginning of the sunrise. Right? It's like it's becoming that yellowish, orangey red. Right? It's a new day, the beginning of a new day. So, what's this? What's this all about? Vampire. Yaku has to go. Sun's rising. Has to go. You know, vampires go in the night. What was this? Proof of existence of vampire Dracula. What's going on? And he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me. I will not let you go until you bless me." He said to him, "What is your name?" He replied, Yaakov, Jacob. Now he said, "No longer will it be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel." This is the first mention of the name Israel here in Genesis chapter 32, verse 29. Genesis chapter 32, verse 29. Again, Genesis chapter 32, verse 29 is the first time in the Torah that the name Israel appears. And what an appearance with the sun. Sun's about to rise, dawn. Israel appears with a new name is given at dawn, the beginning of a new day. What's going on here? What's this connection? Is there a connection here? Is there something we're missing? If so, what are we missing? What is the connection? What is the for night? You know, for some people, night. You know, night is very beautiful, starry. You can have, you know. What is the deeper meaning of this blessing? So Jacob asks of this entity being man, after he fights with him, who says to him, "I gotta go, let me go, dawn's breaking. Clock. Dawn's coming, sun's rising, I gotta go." Shh. And he blesses him with a new name. An additional name, that is, because Jacob remains as a name, but no longer will your name, will be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel. And now it continues, and now it gets even deeper. More mystic, more mysterious. He said, "No longer will it be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with the divine and with men, and have overcome." What's going on here, boy? What's going on? "For I have striven with the divine and with men, and have overcome." This is, of course, chapter 29, verse 29. So Jacob asks for a blessing, giving a new name, Israel, and then continues. So it justifies the giving of this specific name. Was a reward, a merit to receive this name. I was supposed to be chosen, Yaakov, you know. What is this? He fights all night. He fights, he struggles, he wrestles. He merits this name through pain. He gets injured, an injury of pain, dislocated, and injured, wrestling, fighting, struggling in the night. At the dawn, he emerges victorious, blessed with a new name, and the being entity divine. justifies to Yaakov for him receiving this blessing. For you have striven with the divine and with man and have overcome. Goes like this. Vayomer Yaakov Elohim vat anashim shalit am Elohim am anashim, with the divine and with man and have overcome. What a great mystery. What a powerful passage. From Mary through pain and gain, Jacob gets injured, he struggles, gets a blessing, a new name, and it's justified because he won, he emerged victorious, he conquered both man and the divine. Yaakov, our father, patriarch, Jacob, at dawn. Emergence, a new son. And it continues. Then Yaakov, Jacob inquired, and he said, divulge, if you please, your name. Divulge your name. He blesses him with a new name. And he says, divulge, if you please, your name. What is this mysteries here of name? New names regained through merit, pain. He gets injured, Yaakov. Gets injured. In the night of the struggle, right? Gets an injury. Divulge, if you please, your name. And he said, why then do you inquire of my name? What do you want to know my name for? What's your name? And he blessed him there. And it's mentioned again, the blessing. What's the importance here of mentioning the blessing again? You already blessed him. He says the Torah, Holy Torah, mentions again. He blessed him again. It doesn't say again. He says he blessed him there. He blessed him there. He blessed him there. Bracha, bracha, bracha. Continues. So Jacob called the name of the place. So this place, location, where this momentous historic event occurred, where Jacob, patriarch of 12 tribes of Israel, 12 children of Yaakov, the 12 tribes of Israel. This was more than 3,700 years ago. This momentous event in Jewish civilization, when the name Israel emerged. That's on the lips of politicians, spiritual teachers, financiers, worldwide. Israel, Israel, Israel. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. Listen to this. For I have seen the divine face to face, yet my life was spared. Now this is another great mystery here. I've seen the divine face to face, but my life was spared. What does it mean? Does it imply? What divine? The divine, that divine who struggled, who wrestled, who fought Jacob all night, who injured Jacob, that he was dislocated hip socket. What's going on? We continue. Now another great mystery follows here. For I have seen the divine face to face, yet my life was spared. This is enshrined in the Torah, yet we know that no human being can see the divine and live. we see a spark, we see a glimmer, we see a sparkling glimmer through veils and veils and veils. What's going on? What is the deal? What's the deal here? For I've seen the divine face to face, yet lived. And then we know from the Moses story, I say, my face you will not see. The greatest prophet. But here with Jacob, with this momentous event, what's going on? And we continue. Verse 32 in chapter 32. 32. ויזרע השמש. ויזרע השמש. And this word Vayezra, it's a Vav Yud Zayin Reish Chet. It's an interesting appellation, an interesting word here in the Torah, because the translation in English is so mystic, so powerful. This passage is like fiery light, life. The sun rose for him. This is the transliteration, I'm kidding you not, in the English, because this has, of course, the original Hebrew and the English. So this is another more perplexing, because they all go together. We have to put like a papyrus, like puzzles, like hieroglyphs, with mysteries and of this original and then the translation, and then put it together and get indications and sparks and glimmers of inner dimensions of this story here. And the essence, the core, and the fundamental of these verses of chapter 32 in Genesis that I mentioned have to do with the first time, the occurrence of the name Israel. You have to grasp this, because this is why I'm lecturing. This is the whole lecture, this is the whole discourse surrounding the mysteries of the name Israel. Verse 32. The sun rose for him as he passed Penuel. Remember Penuel. He named Penuel because he had seen the divine face to face. Peniel. Right? You have seen face to face. And he was limping on his hip. So, for the proof, or proof is not the term I would use, further glimpse and glimmers of this profound mystery, that Jacob did get injured during the fight, during the struggle with what he called the divine, what he called God. And throughout rabbinic, mystic, Jewish civilizations, literature, and great minds and rabbis, great rabbis, rabbanim. And today, of course, we have the state of Israel, who's on the mouth of many nations of the world, from all over the world, whether they're spiritual persons, financial persons, political persons, citizens. Every day, the the name is in the news now. 3,734 years later, more or less, chronologically. It's another story, another cup of coffee. What does the name mean? Mystery, mystery, mystery. Some say Prince of God, some say struggle with God. It seems very contradictory. How can those be? And yet, here we have Jacob, father of the tribes, who's blessed with a name by what he calls the divine, by God, what's written in the Torah by Elohim, by God. And at the beginning of the verse says a man wrestled with him. A man God, what is it? Half man, half head of one of those canines, wild dogs, what is it? Half and half, what's going on here? What's the mystery? I'm going to read it again, all together. Take a deep breath. Chapter 32, I'm going to start at verse 23 and I'm going to go up to verse 32 including. But he got up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 handmaids, and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Yabok. And when he took them and had them cross over the stream, he sent over his possessions. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. Break of dawn. When he perceived that he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. So Jacob's hip socket was dislocated as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for dawn has broken." And he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He said to him, "What's your name?" He replied, "Yaakov." He said, "No longer will it be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with the divine and with men and have overcome." Then Jacob inquired, and he said, "Divulge, if you please, your name." And he said, "Why then do you inquire of my name?" And he blessed him there. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen the divine face to face, yet my life was spared. The sun rose for him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping on his hip. Wow. This story embodies, of course, the neshama, journey throughout reincarnations and reincarnations and reincarnations of the Jew, the Jewess, the child, bnei or bnah of Israel. From 3,734 years ago to today. we're gonna go one more round. Recap. So we have a mystery. One of the mysteries is, of course, that it was night. That Jacob was left alone and it was night. So he fought, struggled with this entity during the night. That's one important element. The other important element is that he wrestled, he fought, he struggled with him until the break of dawn. So dawn, right, is just with the just before sunrise, right? Dawn is when you start to see a dawn, a glimmer of the golden, yellowish, reddish tinge of sun rising. Dawn, that is dawn. Early in the morning. When he perceived that he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. So Jake, another point, he struggled, he wrestled, following him. This entity, God, man, during the night. This entity, man, God, 3 in 1. Nothing to do with the Trinity. Not gonna go into that. Although there's a lot of Trinity here. And gets a new name, X and Y. We're not going to go into that. Gets injured. Jacob gets injured. He gets hurt. He gets. Then he said, "Let me go." So that entity asks of Jacob. So fighting with Jacob injures Jacob, but couldn't overcome him. Says, "Let me go. Let me go." Why? For dawn has broken. What's the relationship? Because sun is rising, dawn's coming. What, you can't stand the heat of the sun, the light. The sun will make you weaker. You're strong in the night. What's the deal here with "let me go"? Dawn has broken. You need something. It's another mystery here. And Jacob said, "I'll not let you go unless," puts a condition. He gets injured all night. "Unless you bless me." Don't bless me. What are, you might say, whoa. But did he earn that blessing? He earned it. Meritorious, gets injured, he wrestles, he fights, he struggles. It's pain. You know, say muscles, and athletes, boxing, athletic disciplines, and of course, physical training, fitness. No pain, no gain. You know the expression? And of course, it's universally applicable. Studying, learning Torah, so we're doing, we're struggling with this, can't get past this. You know, it's so much, gotta read it again, and gotta read it again and again and again, and again and again and again, and again and again, with so much cup of coffee, maybe 37 coffees, including perhaps this one more, and then another glimmer, another spark of the profundity, the deep holiness and mystery of these verses, from verse 23 to 32, 11 verses or so. 11 verses or so. So that's point by point. What's your name? What's your name? Underlying the mission of the expression of the names. The name in Judaism, of course, contains a core and essence, fundamental qualities, capacities, and potential of a person, and his kind of spiritual, even physical to a certain extent, being, manifestation in the world on the physical plane, if you will, but has a source in the spiritual world, the name, or names, because people have several names. And Jacob, like Jacob, what's your name? Says Jacob. He asks for a blessing. What's your name? This blesses him with this. What's that blessing? Is that a blessing? How's that a blessing? Give me a new name. But that is a blessing. That's another point of this whole story. This adding of this additional name is a blessing. This name that is People are speaking all over the world, whether politicians, whether spiritual teachers or priests and theologians, and of course financiers, business people, scholars, historians, university professors, advocates, activists, from highest level of politics to the streets. Every day this name is pronounced. This name is pronounced on the lips of Jews, of course, and non-Jews alike. Israel. Jacob has blessed me. Not let you go, but bless me. And that's the blessing. That's his new name. He will no longer be known by the name Jacob, but Israel. And then it continues, this verse. For you have striven with the divine and with men and have overcome. He deserved it. He deserved. He merited to be blessed with this name, with a new name. For that being, that man, or that entity, uttered these words to Jacob. For you have striven, struggled, wrestled with the divine and with man, and have overcome. And of course, if you're a scholar like me, a student like me of the Torah, you know that just before he was about to meet his twin brother, just before this event occurred, a struggle occurred. He was about to meet Esau, and you know the story that there was like confrontational approach, if you will. So men and divine and have overcome. Then Jacob inquired. He goes on further. Inquired. Says, bless me. What a negotiator we have here. Jacob says, bless me. Inquires his name. Again. Divulge, if you please. It seems that the translation in English has a very polite tone. It says, divulge, if you please, your name. And it says, then Jacob inquired, and he said, divulge, if you please, your name. And he said, why then do you inquire of my name? And he blessed him there. And then it says, blessed him again. It says he blessed him there. The entity, man, divinity, divine, blessed Jacob again. But wasn't the blessing given already by the holy name added to Jacob? You will no longer be known by Jacob, but by Israel. And not the blessing. What was it? There's an additional blessing. Was now the blessing revealed of the name. He had to go. He had to rush. What was happening in a rush? Dawn's breaking. Let me go. That's what the communication was for, between Jacob and the entity. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. So how it's spelled here in the Hebrew is Peniel. Literally, basically, face of God. Pei, Nun, Yud, Aleph, Lamed. Yeah, literally, face of God. For I have seen the divine face to face, yet my life was This is interesting here. What does it stipulate? For I've seen the divine face to face. Because we know later, just a few chapters after, that Moses is told that no man can see the divine and yet live. Seems like a paradox. Seems something we have to wrestle. We have to struggle with by rereading and rereading and rereading, and maybe seeing the letters in the story itself, higher spiritual truths about this event and our patriarch, Jacob, Israel. Yet my life was spared. My life was spared. Doesn't it seem... What does it seem like? The Torah mentioning that, saying that Jacob said that my life was spared when it was about to be sacrificed to God. Seeing God face to face would have brought death to him. It's certainly a mystery. But this mystery we can wrestle, struggle with, and get more wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Merit to be named Israel also. And that's another question. Sure, one can be a Jew, your grandmother's Jewish, your mother's Jewish, you're a Jew. Great grandmother on your mother's side is Jewish, you're a Jew. Well, who's an Israelite? I have to earn the name, has to merit, to struggle for it, to wrestle with God, have to fight with God to get the name Israel. Obtain Israeli citizenship even if you're not Jewish, you can. If a grandfather was Jewish, from your father's father was Jewish, your mother, the grandmother, your mother or your father was Jewish, or quarter Jewish from either side of your mother or father. Apply Israel, give you a certificate, passport, Israeli citizenship. Okay, very nice. But that name Israel, is it? Yeah, Jacob struggled, wrestled, fought all night. All night he gets injured, survives. My life was spared. He's seen God to God, face to face. What's going on in this story? Deep, profound event. Who can call themselves Israel, sons, tribes of Israel, child of Israel? Are you a child of Israel? And what's the difference? Is there a difference? Jacob is Israel. Jacob became Israel. Jacob became Israel. Jacob became Israel. Had to fight, to wrestle, to struggle. All night. He gets injured in pain. But deserving merit to name Israel. New name, says last verse. The sun rose for him. What do you mean the sun rose for him? And the sun, eye of God. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? You could be. This is the whole world. Like, now it's rising, now it's setting, now it's midday somewhere in the world. In Israel, it's not. It's only 4 something o'clock. It was 3 something o'clock when we started. For the east, sunrise, and somewhere's midday in the more west. Right from Montreal, the more west we go, we take hours away. So the west coast and east side. So plus minus minus plus plus minus. Point is, what's the point? Grim mystery, grim mystery. Had a good time meditating, learning, and now we'll finish for, of course, the Niggin by reading the commentary. Keep in mind that this commentary is mostly, I think, commentary of Rashi based, so it doesn't have the Kabbalistic Jewish mysticism, Hasidus, nor Chabad. Used to go on the Chabad side, Chabad.org. Not promoting Chabad by any chance, but cooperation with Chabad and increasing in acts of goodness and kindness, or increasing in acts of goodness with kindness for world peace, security, and prosperity. Of course, Rabbi Hani is universal. Affiliated with this story, it's Rabbi Hani. And this one, struggling. So here's the commentary, verse 25 to 32. So it's actually what we read. We read 23 to 32, but this is about chapter 32, verses 25 to 32. And the commentary is this. It says here how the resume is made is that it's the struggle with the angel. This confrontation was a cosmic event in Jewish history. I'm going to read that again. This confrontation was a cosmic event in Jewish history. This confrontation was a cosmic event in Jewish history. The rabbis explained that this man was the guardian angel of Esau. This is by Rashi. So in a human guise. Pure as a human being. The sages teach that every nation has an angel that guides its destiny as an intermediary between it and God. This is important. The sages teach that every nation has an angel that guides its destiny as an intermediary between it and God. Just that requires another cup of coffee and another lecture, learning together. The sages teach that every nation has an angel that guides its destiny as an intermediary between it and God. Two nations, however, are unique. Israel is God's own people, as just as Esau epitomizes evil, so his angel is the prime spiritual force of evil, Satan himself. I'm just going to say that he'll not be misunderstood, that this potential for evil or evil is not total evil or bad evil in Esau, because in Jewish tradition and the sages of Israel, of course, I've said in Kabbalistic and more mystic side, that of course Esau has a very good spiritual qualities that come from very high sources, and they must be channeled, transformed correctly in order to do tikkun olam, which is the whole purpose of the world, of the Torah, and with Esau together with his good part, to rectify in that evil part. So, because some people, if they might hear this and they might not understand Judaism and have a very limited wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of Judaism, You might see as bad, negative things. With Nas, there's not, there's more to it. There's good qualities of Isa, redemptive qualities of Isa. Actually, Jacob and Isa must work together to bring about tikkun olam, healing, healing for the world. By spiritual force, he is Satan himself. Thus, this battle was the eternal struggle between good and evil, between man's capacity to perfect himself and Satan's determination to destroy him spiritually. The verse explains the name Israel as a combination of Isra, it's spelled as Yud, Shin, Resh, Che, to prevail over El, Aleph, Lamed, Aleph, Lamed, Aleph, Lamed, the divine, that is the angel.